Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt invisible, like no one noticed your efforts, your potential, or even your pain? Maybe you've been overlooked, misunderstood, or cast aside. People didn't see your value. Doors closed, opportunities slipped away. And you started to wonder, am I even meant for more? But I came with a message straight from the throne room of heaven. You may have been ignored by earth, but you were chosen by heaven. Man's rejection is not God's rejection. What earth dismissed, heaven has called. When heaven chooses you, no earthly opinion cancel that decision. You were never forgotten, you were being prepared. Today, I want to remind you, your story isn't over. In fact, heaven is just getting started. Just because you were ignored by people doesn't mean you were ignored by God. Being overlooked by others can be painful. It leaves you questioning your worth, wondering if you have anything valuable to offer. Sometimes you give your all, stay faithful, love deeply, and still go unnoticed. You show up, but no one claps. You serve, but no one sees. You speak, but no one listens. But let me tell you something powerful. Earth's silence does not mean heaven is silent. Just because people didn't recognize you doesn't mean you weren't recognized. God never needed a crowd to confirm what he already knew about you. You were chosen in silence, approved in private, and prepared without applause. There are countless stories throughout Scripture where those ignored by men were handpicked by God. David wasn't even invited to the anointing ceremony. His own father didn't see him as worthy. But God sent the prophet Samuel specifically for him. Why? Because God doesn't choose based on outward approval. He chooses based on inward purpose. The stone the builders rejected became the cornerstone. The one left out becomes the one God lifts up. That's the kind of God we serve. He specializes in raising up the forgotten, in honoring the rejected, in placing crowns on heads that others never even looked at. You might feel like your efforts have been wasted, your prayers unheard, your gifts unused. But I need you to understand, heaven was watching when no one else was. Heaven was listening when you cried alone. Heaven was working behind the scenes when all you saw were closed doors. Being ignored by earth isn't the end. It's often the setup. Because when God chooses you, it's not for show, it's for purpose. And his purpose will prevail with or without earthly applause. So if you've been passed over, left out, or underestimated, don't let it break you. Let it build you. Because you're not standing in rejection. You're standing in preparation. God has a way of saving the best for last, and what's coming will make sense of everything that was lost. You were not forgotten. You were being positioned for something far greater than earth could ever offer. It's easy to believe that pain means punishment or that rejection means you did something wrong. But what if I told you that your pain had a purpose, one that was orchestrated by heaven, not to break you, but to build you? See, the process of being chosen often includes a season of being crushed. That season when doors don't open, when relationships fall apart, when your prayers seem unanswered. Those moments weren't signs of abandonment. They were signs of preparation. God was not ignoring you. He was shaping you. Heaven never wastes pain. Every tear you cried, every silent battle you fought, every lonely night, it all had weight in the spirit. While others saw delay, God saw development. While you were asking, why me? God was answering with, but because I trust you with this process. He allows you to go through what others couldn't survive. Not because he wants to hurt you, but because he's building something deeper in you. A character that can carry the calling, a strength that can stand under pressure, a heart that won't forget humility when elevation comes. Look at Joseph. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, thrown into prison. To the world, it looked like a man falling lower and lower. But to heaven, it was the path to the palace. Every injustice Joseph suffered pushed him closer to his divine assignment. What others meant for evil, God turned for good. The pit was necessary for the promotion. The pain was necessary for the platform. And the delay was necessary for the destiny. Don't despise your difficult season. Don't curse the silence or try to rush the process. Heaven is crafting something in you that earth couldn't handle yet. What looks like rejection is actually redirection. God is pruning you, not punishing you. And when the time is right, what broke you will be the very thing God uses to bless others through you. So hold on. Keep walking. Keep trusting. Your pain has not been in vain. Heaven has been watching. And what's coming next will be evidence that even in your lowest moment, you were being prepared for something greater. God's calling on your life doesn't come with a popularity vote. It's not up for discussion, and it's certainly not based on the approval of people. Divine selection is not democratic. God does not consult the crowd before he anoints someone. In fact, he often bypasses the obvious and chooses the least expected. He chooses the ones others would disqualify. The ones who didn't come from the right family, didn't have the right resume, didn't speak with confidence, didn't look the part. Why? Because when he moves through someone the world would never choose, only he gets the glory. When you were passed over by others, it wasn't because you weren't good enough. It was because their standards were never meant to define you. God doesn't use the same criteria as man. Where people see status, God sees spirit. Where they want credentials, God looks for character. Heaven doesn't choose the loudest or the most followed. It chooses the most faithful. Your hidden years weren't wasted. They were sacred. You were being chosen in quiet places so that when your name is called in public, you'll know exactly who it was that placed you there. Consider Moses. He wasn't eloquent, he wasn't politically connected, and he wasn't looking for leadership. But he was chosen. Gideon was hiding in fear when God called him a mighty warrior. Mary was a young, unnoticed girl in Nazareth, but heaven saw her as highly favored. Time after time, God picks those who seem unqualified in man's eyes and qualifies them with his presence. So if you feel like you don't measure up to people's expectations, good. Because you weren't made to fit into their mold. You were set apart for something higher. You don't need a platform to be chosen. You don't need a title to carry authority. If heaven has called you, no earthly system can cancel it. They might not invite you to the table, but that's only because God is building you a table of your own. Don't chase validation from people who don't understand your calling. You don't need to be seen to be selected. Heaven already made its choice, and that choice was you. What earth overlooks, heaven highlights. While others may have seen your flaws, your failure past, heaven saw your faithfulness. People tend to judge based on what's visible, your appearance, your success, your connections. But God sees the heart. He sees what you do when no one is watching. He sees the prayers you whisper through tears, the acts of kindness you give without recognition, the obedience you show in silence. You were never invisible to him. In fact, it was in those hidden seasons that heaven was watching you the most. You may have felt unnoticed. You may have wondered, does any of this matter? But the truth is, your quiet consistency, your unseen faith, your refusal to give up even when it would have been easier to quit, those things were not ignored. Heaven takes note of what earth misses. The applause may not have come from people, but all of heaven was clapping. Angels were assigned, doors were prepared, favor was being arranged. Not because of who was watching you, but because of who you were watching. Think about how God chose David. He wasn't in the lineup with his brothers when Samuel came to anoint a king. He was out in the fields, doing a job no one respected. But while men were looking at appearances, God was watching devotion. While his brothers looked the part, David lived the part. And that's what God is drawn to. Not performance, but purity. Not fame, but faithfulness. That's why you were chosen, not because you were perfect, but because you were real. You were developing in the dark, growing in places no one could see. And that's why when God raises you, it won't be superficial. It'll be spiritual. It won't just impress people. It'll transform lives. Because your journey was not about being seen. It was about being shaped. You didn't miss your moment. You were being made ready for it. So don't be discouraged by those who ignored you. They weren't meant to see what heaven ordained. You weren't overlooked. You were being observed by the only one whose approval truly matters. And that's all you need. You are not an afterthought or a backup plan. Heaven chose you with intention, with purpose, and with a divine assignment only you can fulfill. No one else carries your unique combination of experiences, gifts, and insights. There is a specific problem in this world that only your hands can solve. Only your voice can speak to, and only your heart can heal. When earth turned its back, heaven leaned in closer because you were meant for something greater. Too often, we measure our worth by how many people notice us, how many doors open, or how much applause we receive. But God's selection isn't about popularity, it's about purpose. You were created for a mission tailored just for you, a calling that fits you perfectly like a glove. You are essential in the story God is writing on this earth. Without you, the story would be incomplete. Look around. Many who now lead, inspire, and change the world were once ignored, dismissed, or underestimated. Their moment came not because the world saw their value early on, but because heaven saw it all along and never forgot. You are part of that lineage. You are part of that legacy. Your selection is a testimony that God's ways are higher than man's ways, and His plans for you are unstoppable. Remember, being chosen means you have been equipped and empowered. Heaven doesn't just pick anyone. It prepares those it picks to walk in strength and purpose. You are not here by accident or coincidence. You are here because God intentionally set you apart, equipped you with what you need, and sent you to make a difference. So stand firm in this truth. You are an answer, not an afterthought. You are needed. You are valuable. You were chosen because heaven believes in you more than the world ever could. Let that truth settle in your spirit and give you the courage to step into your divine purpose. Now is the moment to rise, not by your own strength, but because heaven has sent you. When you understand that your calling comes from God, you no longer need the approval or applause of people to move forward. You can walk boldly, knowing that the one who chose you goes before you, stands beside you, and equips you every step of the way. You are not stepping into the unknown alone. You are stepping into a destiny already confirmed by heaven itself. This is your time to stop shrinking back and start standing tall. It doesn't matter if the world still doesn't see you or understand your journey. What matters is that heaven has already said yes to you. When you step out in faith, you carry the authority and the favor of the one who called you. Your confidence isn't based on your past, your circumstances, or your current situation. It's based on the unchanging truth that God chose you. The road ahead may still have challenges, but you are not walking it by chance. You are walking it by choice, God's choice. And because heaven is backing you, no obstacle is too great, no opposition too strong. When you move like someone sent, you move with purpose, power, and protection. So rise up. Step forward. Walk in the confidence that comes from knowing heaven has already approved you, and earth's rejection cannot cancel what God has ordained. Your time is now. The world may have ignored you, but heaven has chosen you, and that is everything. As we come to the close of this message, I want you to carry one unshakable truth deep within your heart. Being ignored by earth is not a reflection of your worth, but a part of your journey toward divine purpose. Heaven has seen what others missed. Heaven has chosen you, not by accident, but by intentional design. Your pain, your waiting, your seeming rejection were all steps in preparation for something greater than you can imagine. You are not forgotten, overlooked, or cast aside. You are loved, appointed, and empowered. The God who calls you is faithful to complete the work He began in you. So stand tall with confidence, walk boldly with faith. Move forward knowing that when heaven chooses you, no earthly rejection can ever cancel that calling. Remember, you were ignored by earth but chosen by heaven, and that truth will carry you through every challenge, every doubt, and every delay. Your destiny is secure, your purpose is clear, and your victory is already written. Step into it with courage, because heaven is with you, now and always.